Okay, let's call this meeting to order. Notice of a special council meeting, the City Council of the City of North Kansas City, Missouri, August 27th, 2019, amended. Eric?
Thanks, sir. Do you want to read the item?
Well, okay, we are ready to start the public hearing on the tax levy.
Thank you. Yes, sir. So, state law does require each political subdivision in the state, except for counties, to fix their ad valorem property tax rates not later than September 1st for entry in the tax books. Total assessed values for property within the city limits are reviewed in May and June by Clay County. In even years, the property is simply reviewed to add growth. No new properties that have, that is, new properties that have come onto the property tax rolls in the last year, or additional valuation that's been created on them. In odd years, such as 2019, this year, the county assesses the properties to account for changes in market value as well as growth. The basic theory of the Hancock Amendment to the Missouri Constitution is that city revenue from property tax should be neutral from year to year for non-growth increases in assessments. So typically, as non-growth related property assessments increase, levies typically decrease. On the other hand, if non-growth related property increases, assessments decrease in any given year, then Hancock provides that levies may increase to maintain that revenue neutrality that's called for by the Hancock Amendment. The city's current year's tax assessments were received from the Clay County Clerk on August 13th. Current assessments increased by over $41 million, or 15.7% since last year. Those amounts are sent then to the state auditor's office, which applies them to a formula that's established by statute, and which we get, they tell us exactly what is required in order to meet the requirements of the Hancock Amendment. They determine the levies which may be set for each of the funds for which we have a property tax levy to meet the requirements of that amendment. And based upon the results of these computations, levies for 2019 are proposed to decrease as indicated in your materials. Property tax levy is actually slated to decrease by about 12% next year to offset the amount of non-growth related assessment increase. So there were some very substantial reassessments this year, but the amount that state auditor tells us we must decrease the property tax levies to compensate for that is indicated in those materials. So we do recommend approval of the ordinance setting property tax levies for 2019.
Comments from the public? Okay, we'll close the public hearing.
And
Okay,
I had one quick question. The Clay County Assessor's Office had a lot of people protesting their tax assessments. Is that process done now? Do we know? Because if they protest and then they're granted that, it won't go up as much, we would lose some revenue on that.
I guess we would, sir. I don't think it is done, but we have to. The city council simply has to do it by September 1st, or we'll reduce our property tax rate, in our case, to 0, because we have no debt-related property tax levy. So that is something we'll just have to live with if those changes occur.
in other words, we don't have the mess they have over there in Jackson County.
Well, I don't think we have quite the mess in Clay County, at any rate, but
Well, the problem is we get these figures and stuff like a week or two before we need to approve them.
That's right.
Which is, that's
that
their
is
fault.
the unfortunate fact. It's true, was certainly true in Cass County when I worked there as well.
Okay, got a motion?
First reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
An ordinance fixing the rate of taxation for general municipal purposes and for special purposes and making the levy on taxable property within the limits of the city of North Kansas City, Missouri for the year 2019.
Go ahead, Tom.
I move that bill number 7435 be placed on second and final reading and passes ordinance number 98232.
Call roll.
Councilmember Pearman? Yes. Councilmember Clevenger?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Stewart?
Yes.
Councilmember Stefan?
Yes.
Councilmember Farr?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember DeLong?
Yes.
Councilmember Pierce?
Yes.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
An ordinance fixing the rate of taxation for general municipal purposes and for special purposes and making the levy on taxable property within the limits of the city of North Kansas City, Missouri for the year 2019.
Number 4.
Request for modified license agreement by Rio Tinto AUM, Bill number 7436, ordinance number 9233.
Eric?
Thank you, sir. I'll call on the city councilor, Tom Barzee.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, I'll try to make this very brief. A couple of months ago, you passed an ordinance approving a license agreement to put in some wells inside of our, the PID for groundwater monitoring, all as a result of the Superfund project that took place here, and they're monitoring, and they're required by the EPA to monitor the groundwater. We thought we had all of the spots, and, but as they drilled the first well, I believe that they drilled, they found something that was unexpected. They found that it was migrating in a different direction, and they concluded the reason why is because we had some private wells, large private wells, that were sucking huge amounts of water, and it caused it to move. And so the EPA is requiring them to put in another further down. This is all down from the fire station and the PID. To put in another groundwater monitoring well, an additional one to the ones that you've already approved. And there's 2 listed on here. One is 2A and one is 2B. They're only going to do one of the 2, but they will be doing one of those 2, and it'll be within the city's right-of-way. The others we've gotten rid of. If you pass this one, we'll get rid of the other license agreement, so everything will be in this particular license agreement showing all of the wells. Ross Overby, who's the outside consultant for Rio Tinto, that's been supervised all of this cleanup over the last number of years, is here tonight in case you had any questions for him. But if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them as well.
First reading.
Second.
Get a second?
Yeah, over there.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
An ordinance adopting and approving an amended and restated license agreement by and between the City of North Kansas City, Missouri and Rio Tinto AUM Company regarding the installation and use of certain groundwater monitoring wells in city right-of-way.
I move that bill number 7436 be placed on second and final reading and passes ordinance number 9233.
Call roll?
Councilmember Pearman? Yes. Councilmember Clevenger?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Stewart?
Yes.
Councilmember Stefan?
Yes.
Councilmember Farr?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember DeLong?
Yes.
Councilmember Pierce?
Yes.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
An ordinance adopting and approving an amended and restated license agreement by and between the City of North Kansas City, Missouri and Rio Tinto AUM Company regarding the installation and use of certain groundwater monitoring wells in city right-of-way.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?